Carl Jung is perhaps the most influential writer that you will ever read, yet I feel like a lot of people have not read him because his writings are not super approachable. But the book I have for you today is Man and His Symbols, and this is perhaps the most easily and readily available book to read by Jung that will introduce you to all of his ideas and unlock the door for you to read his more challenging writing. And the reason I want to bring this book is because I feel like I've talked about Jung a lot, and we've talked about a lot of more esoteric ideas, a lot of more expressive, poetic, philosophical ideas. Yet Jung himself is not that complex. When you really break down the ideas, they're not that difficult. It's just you need to be exposed to them first before you can start to make sense of them. And that's really the secret with Jung. It's understanding the ideas in the context of your own mind. Understand the ideas in a simpler context and then bringing that to the examples he says, because a lot of his examples are biblical examples. Because he was so well versed in ancient Greek, ancient Latin, and all of these other languages that allowed him to basically pull from all of these different cultures. And it might be very difficult for you to understand this. And that's why I really urge you to read this book, because this book is the simplest, most straightforward way to understand Jung. And most of the main ideas in this book are put so simply that even if you're unfamiliar with everything he says, you'll be able to understand them. And the genesis of this book is that Jung gave a series of lectures, and prior to the lectures, people were telling him you should write a book that is more digestible, that the average person can read, that's not meant for the scientific mind. And Jung refused. But he had these lectures, and after these lectures, he just started to get letters at the time, and these letters were telling him, like, you've changed my life. These lectures really inspired me to make the difference and do all of these things and set my life in a better path. And after that, he started having dreams about him speaking to a crowd of people, but the crowd of people was not the normal crowd of people that he was speaking to. Instead of a crowd of people that were scientists, it was a crowd of people that were everyday people. And this inspired him to begin writing the book. And the structure of the book is, I think it's the first 70 or 80 pages are written by Jung, and then the remainder of the book is written by his greatest students. But I think this is actually a benefit because Jung's writing is so complex, it's so difficult to read sometimes, that it's very beneficial that someone that is not as smart as him is writing these books. And I really, really, really urge you to pick up this book, because through this you will learn about dream analysis, you will learn about the anima animus, you will learn about archetypes, you will learn about the shadow, you will learn about all of the main ideas that Jung gave to the world in order for humanity to prosper, in order for humanity to become all they can be. And what I really picked up when I read this book was the importance of dreams. And to summarize the importance of dreams, this is basically what Jung says. I'm going to butcher it, I'm going to very much paraphrase it, but basically, when you sleep, you have access to all of your memories. You only have a certain amount of memories, you only have a certain amount of experiences that you can pull from while you're awake. But there are all sorts of things that are affecting you on a subliminal level, on an unconscious level throughout the day. And these influences could be something so big as when you were younger, your teacher yelled at you for getting the wrong answer, and now you're afraid to public speak. Or it could be something so big as like a horrific trauma that you tried to forget. But it's only through our dreams that we can piece together what it is that we're missing out in our current life and start to integrate it into our life in the real world to find happiness. And I really think if you pick up this book, you're well versed in his ideas, and I think you don't have to go any further than this book to have a solid understanding and a solid grasp of these ideas. And then you can move forward into the world with these ideas and be inspired to change. Because Jung's basic idea is, if you can understand yourself, then you can understand where you go wrong. And if you can understand where you go wrong, then you can find ways to integrate your more negative characteristics. We all have negative characteristics, and these negative characteristics really aren't bad things. Like, I've never really fit in. I've never really been able to sit still. I've never really been able to sit down and listen to someone speak. But guess what? What is that? That's creativity. That's the lack of wanting to conform. That's me having my mind work in a different way so I can channel this into something better. I can channel this into videos. I can channel this into writing. I can channel it into more creative endeavors in my life. And what I once thought was my biggest curse is my biggest gift. And it's all about this. It's all about spinning your weaknesses into strength. Emerson said it best: in every instance, there is both equal parts good and equal parts bad. In every characteristic, there is both good and bad. Someone that is very confident is someone that can also be very arrogant at times. And you must understand that every characteristic that you are shunning in yourself is also a source of strength, is also an advantage that you have that the other people in the world do not have. And that's really the basis of Jungian psychology. It's integrating the parts of yourself that you have been afraid to show to the world because you're afraid that people will judge you. You are afraid that people won't like you. You are afraid that everyone in the world will tell you not to do this or tell you not to do that. But the true sad element of this is that if you live a world where you're not yourself, you no matter what you have, no matter what you get, it's not worth it. It's better to live in a world where you're hated for who you are than loved for who you're not. And that's really the genesis of the modern mental health crisis, is that people are living lives that aren't their lives. They're living their lives for someone else. They're doing things based off of other people's perspectives. They're doing things based off what other people think is best for them. And then they wake up one day and they're unhappy and they can't figure out why. And it's like, maybe it's because you're not yourself. Maybe it's not everything around you. Maybe it's you. Maybe you're living a life that you despise. Maybe you're living a life that's inauthentic. We all hate inauthentic people, yet we don't hate ourselves for being inauthentic. And it's so weird that we will call someone else a phony, but we're being phony to ourselves. We're being phony to who we really are. We're not expressing our true self. And the ultimate solution to this idea is Jung's process of individuation. And what individuation is basically facing your fears through different things in your life. So most people I know, at least some of my friends from college and a lot of people I talk to, when they find out I do jiu-jitsu, they're like, oh, I always wanted to try. And it's like, when you want to try something and you don't, that is lack. That is lack of integration. That is you pulling yourself back for some fear. That is you not doing everything that you can do in this world because you're afraid of the repercussions. And the truth is, whenever you do that, you lose a part of yourself. You lose a potential hobby. You lose a potential endeavor that could make you happy day after day after day. And that's really the key to it. It's finding yourself through activities. It's finding yourself through facing your fears. It's the hero's journey. It's trying, it's failing, and then succeeding. And then when you succeed, it means that much more because you failed. But so many people are failures to launch. So many people do not even try. So many people do not even go out and expand what it means to be themselves. Find out new elements of themselves. Find out how strong they are. Push themselves, challenge themselves. And it's through this process where you find who it is that you are and who it is that you've always meant to be, yet you were afraid because you thought people would dislike you. And that's the greatest thing. We're all afraid to be ourselves, but when we're ourselves, we have everything we need. We don't need anything else externally. And that's perhaps the greatest summation of Jung I can give. With that said, I really urge you to pick up this book because it's very quick to read. It's very simple. It's very easy in comparison to the rest of his works. And I think this is really the building block, and this is probably the book that you should read first. There's two more books that I think are very approachable, very simple. The other one is Memories, Dreams, Reflections, which is Jung's autobiography, so you can kind of get a context of him. You can kind of get a very brief synopsis of his ideas, and you can understand his ideas in the context of his life. But I think this one's more substantive. This one gives a more general overview of his ideas. And the other one that I also want you to read if you're new to Jung is The Undiscovered Self, because this is really the explanation of the unconscious and how the unconscious can affect you. And it's fairly short. I think it's like 100 pages, and it's put in very simple language. And I really do love that book. So with that said, I love you guys so much. Thank you guys so much. Peace out. I'll catch you in the next one. This book will be linked at in the description of the video. Peace out.